Welcome to Still In It, a 5-MeO DMT Journeys podcast, where I talk to real people about their 5-MeO experience. Our goal is to bring you honest and diverse perspectives about what this medicine is all about. I'm your host, Jessie, and I'm excited to have you along for the ride. So hop in and enjoy as we discuss what preparation, ceremony, and integration look like. This podcast is sponsored by Enfold, offering safe and sacred experiences in British Columbia. To learn more, visit enfold.org. That is enfold.org. Or click the link in the show notes. And now, without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's episode. I want to kick off this episode by welcoming our former guest, Jeff, to the pod.
Hey, Jesse, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And I guess if you don't mind sharing about like how you ended up at Enfold, like maybe sharing a little bit of your background story and what called you to the medicine.
I think the best place to start would be to say that, I was this normal guy, I thought, living a normal life with a normal, happy family, a little over 3.5 years ago when I experienced a severe family trauma. And because of that, it gave me severe PTSD and with severe flashbacks and all of the symptoms of PTSD. And it was so severe that my life was miserable and I was suicidal. The therapy sessions helped, but I got to the point where they were no longer helping. So I looked into alternative treatment methods, right? So I looked into psilocybin and I attended a psilocybin retreat and it helped. And that led me to MDMA. But those only got me to the point where I was able to better manage the symptoms, but it didn't cure anything, And I was still miserable. I was still depressed. I was still suicidal, And something had to give. And so the facilitators who treated me, with psilocybin and MDMA, they felt that the next best thing for me, or the next best step, or the treatment that they thought would help get me over the hump and move on with my life would be 5-MeO-DMT. They said, listen, this is big medicine. It's the strongest psychedelic that there is out there. I'm a physician. I'm also a Christian. And so I had a religious hesitation, to do any of this. But I had to do something. Something had to give because I couldn't go on living like this.
I have no doubt that psilocybin and MDMA helped you so much get to like the point where 5-MeO-DMT was extremely impactful for you, and maybe share a bit about your experience and how 5-MeO-DMT feels, and then we can talk a little bit more about like how you are now post ceremony.
Yeah, so it was a very powerful experience. And to be honest with you, I don't really remember a whole lot about it. You know what I mean? I do remember some visions and seeing some things, the white lights and the crystals and those types of things. But I just remember that when my ego was separated from my body, I felt like I was cured. And it's like, and then when I rejoined, it's like, okay, I felt like the connection was remade in my brain, and then that trauma was gone, and I was able to accept it. I was able to accept the trauma, and I felt like the trauma was processed somehow, and that now that the trauma with they refer to big T, which are traumas that that you can't process in your brain. You keep reliving it like as if it happened yesterday, and you have flashbacks. Was reduced to a small T where I could sit back and look at it at arm's length as just any other trauma that had happened in my life, and that I was over it and I was able to move on.
Do you felt like it was a deep release after, or like how did you feel?
I was healed. It's like, and it's like, and I felt that way ever since. And it was something that none of the other treatments did for me. But in other words, this was like profound, and And I got to tell you, it was like a miracle, you know.
That's so beautiful to hear. Um, do you think that I know for you personally, you had a lot of reactivations after? Do you believe like that process of reactivations also was just you like further just going through the healing process and letting go and processing all that trauma that you were going through?
It's like all of these negative thoughts just kept coming to the surface, and allowed me to, look, you know, um, lean in to those negative thought patterns, and face to face, and assess them and let them go. And so, and that's the one thing that I think that it really showed me, because before I was never able to separate my ego. I had all these walls set up, and it allowed me to break down the walls, look at my ego, look at all the, the self-sabotaging issues that I had, and the negative thought patterns that I had related to this trauma, and that were set up as protective mechanisms to protect me, right? I was able to look at them and go, this does not serve me. And it allowed me to look at them and go, look, you got to let it go because it doesn't serve you. And so by doing that, that helps to soften the blow of any type of flashback that may try to come up.
Yeah, thank you. I know that like you're processing that the big T trauma, but I do remember, and you kind of alluded to it here, that you mentioned that it allowed you almost like space now before you react to certain things and really be more present. Do you find that like 5-MeO, since 5-MeO, other changes have occurred for you, or is there anything else that you're working on currently?
Yeah, it does. It allows you to live like now. It's like I, I focus on the present. Before I never lived in the present. I either lived in the past or the future, right? And I live with the anxiety of the future, and then the fear of the past. And it's like, and again, it showed me and allowed me to understand that I can't control either one, and then it allows you to live and be in the present, which I think is huge, and made me realize too that I was somebody that always sort of had this upper limit of happiness, right? In other words, I would never let myself go past a certain level, because either A, I felt like I wasn't good enough, or I didn't want to disappoint somebody, you know what I mean, because I was being too successful or whatever. And what it did, it allowed me to go, you know what, you are worthy, you are good enough to enjoy full happiness, and that the only way you're going to enjoy full happiness is to live in the moment. And that's the one thing that it did for me, that it showed me that. And it was only after the 5-MeO that I'm able to get there, and live like that.
That's incredible, honestly. Um, I guess what the last question I would have for you would be, what would you recommend to somebody who was getting started with this process or looking into 5-MeO? Is there anything that you wish that you have known going into it, or that you wish that people know before they sign up for a 5-MeO retreat or before they take the medicine?
Yeah, it's just like with anything, with psychedelics, and in general, you have set and setting, right? It's like, what's the set? Why are you doing it? What are you looking to achieve? You know, and I think you need to be able to identify that from the get go, whether it be, am I having issues with depression or addiction, or am I a cancer patient with a year to live, or one of your close relatives or spouse or whatever, if somebody has, that's close to you, that can help you deal with that. You can, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, or you have PTSD and you're trying to get over it and get through it, right, and deal with it and get you to the point where you can manage it, uh, or are you looking to, improve, yourself and who you are and the way that you relate to the world and make you a happier person, I think it's key that you definitely have to be able to identify that well ahead of time and knowing what your intentions are before you start. You know what I mean? To go and say, "Hey, dude, I just want to get a buzz and have fun and check it out." You know what I mean? I don't think that's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, uh, but I think that because this is a powerful medicine, and it's wonderful medicine, and and it's helped so many people. But I think having an intention before you go in is key. Um, and I will say that if you do have a history of depression or addiction or PTSD, I think that it's before you do this medicine, I think it's important that you have to do the work. You can't rely on this medicine to fix everything, right? You have to be able to. You have to do your homework, right? So for me, it was a year, a full year of therapy, right? And to get me to the point where, okay, well, you know now I can identify what the real root problems are, and and how do I fix them, right? And you have to do the individual work yourself, right? But if you do have depression or PTSD, it's important that you stick with your therapist until you're finally through it and you can move on with your life.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to say thank you so much. Honestly, your story and seeing the before you and the after you is incredible. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us.
Yeah. I'll tell you one last thing. I'll tell you. I
Yeah.
mean, it no doubt saved my life, no doubt.
Oh,
And so, I mean, anybody with PTSD, it's one of these things where, in a lot of cases, or psychotherapy can't cure it, and a lot of people need this to be able to help get them through this, and I think that the 5-MeO was the final medicine that did it for me.
thanks for listening to the Still In It podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're interested in hearing more, the best thing you could do is to leave us a review. This allows us to continue to record and inform others on the 5-MeO experience. If you want to join our beloved community or learn more about us, feel free to visit us at enfold.org. That is enfold.org.